Right, here we go again. Eskom's announced stage 3 power cuts for today with stage 2 from tomorrow. South Africans were shocked yesterday when we were ramped up to stage 4. What kind of impact are continued blackouts having on the economy and the people? And why has Cape Town seemingly been able to mitigate power cuts? eNCA reporters Nqobile Madlala is in Johannesburg in Greenside. We also have Ronald Masinda in Cape Town, as well as Mawande Kheswa for us out in Durban. Nqobile, I'm going to start with you. We've had quite a lot of issues here in Johannesburg, particularly where power cuts come on by Eskom, but then ailing infrastructure by municipalities, you're unable to see some areas get back their power even after the load shedding.
Yes, that's right, Masego. We've seen that for quite some time. In fact, it has even gone as far as, from what we have seen, affecting reservoirs. So now you will remember that we spoke to some of the people in Coronation Park a while back, and they were telling us that this is becoming a real issue. In fact, when we spoke to the elderly, they were saying that they really need some assistance as soon as possible, because this had not only now affected the fact that they didn't have lights, now they didn't even have water. But right now we're in Greenside, where most people will go for food and drinks, and of course great companies, as we know that a lot of restaurants are here. But this, of course, the impact of load shedding also plays its role. So joining me now is GOVENDER, who is the manager at SPICEBURG. So perhaps give us an idea, because a lot of people will come here for good food, of course. How has the load shedding affected you?
Well, tremendously. Firstly, we're just coming out of the COVID hard lockdown, and now we're just trying to get on our feet. And then there we have the load shedding, which basically affects me by like mostly 30% of my sales. Although we use gas to prepare our food, but we're very famous for our variety of Indian type shakes, coffees, and with the generator that I'm using, we're only allowed to use the lights and the computer, and that affects I'm losing out on 30% of my sales. Then it affects my computers, it affects the credit card machines. Then I've got Uber and Mr. D, which operates on the network. So with load shedding, the network is down. And the beauty part of it all is that the load shedding comes on our peak period. Being in winter now, a lot of people like a curry. And when they come from work, either they order via Uber or Mr. D or a takeaway, and it affects them. It affects our sales.
Yeah. Let's talk about that peak period. How many people would be roughly in the restaurants, and how has it changed with the lights going out?
I would say about 60%. 60% of less feet coming into the shop because of the load shedding. People are scared to drive in the night, in the dark, with the crime rate, especially here in Greenside. So it affects us. Not only me, all the shops, all the restaurants in Greenside.
And you're telling us about the contingency plans, of course, that you have put in place, talking about the fact that you are now using generators and gas. How has that been affecting you financially?
Oh, well, let's put it this way. You want to come out and have a dinner, peace and quiet, away from the house, away from the noise. But when you walk into the restaurant, then we're using the generators, which gives you a loud sound. Are you going to be a happy customer? Definitely not. So people, when they hear the generator, then disappear. Then maybe they'll just do a takeaway. And if they do a takeaway, then it affects my beverage sales. I lose out on beverages, on alcohol. So if I have a customer sitting down, you'd probably buy a bottle of wine, maybe a cold drink. But if he does a takeaway, he's not going to buy. I'm losing out on my beverages.
All right. So what's your way going forward now?
To be quite honest, we have to create a contingency plan, but obviously we need assistance from the government or from Eskom. Rather, like when I get home, for example, the lights go off at 10. So rather do the load shedding that doesn't affect the hospitality trade. Because we have the curfew, right, which is at 11. So if the load shedding can start by 11, then it doesn't affect the hospitality. Simple.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, you heard them, Masejo, Ivan Govender, just speaking to us, saying that this has a huge impact on the hospitality industry. Of course, they're still battling since there was COVID. He's saying now it's just added to that burden that they are already facing. So from what we see, they're saying that now the people are not even deciding to sit in because of the noise that they have to deal with generators, and of course financially affecting the restaurants with regards to some of the beverage sales, as well as having people inside the restaurant.
All right, I'm going to move from Nqobile in Johannesburg to you, Mawande. I see you are at a petrol station out there in Durban. I've tried to get petrol into my car, for instance, when there's been load shedding, and I've been turned back. So I assume even economically it's a bad state for businesses. And also, like Nqobile was talking to her guest, it's not easy finding alternative power because there's also money involved there.
There's quite a plethora of challenges that is posed by that with regards to what you're speaking about, having a challenge in filling up. Now, most service stations, particularly that are around the city center, to get to it, you're going to pass robots at some point in time. That causes congestion, even if that petrol station does have an alternate source of power, but getting into it, you're going to find a queue as a result of those traffic lights that aren't working in and around. I'm going to speak to Ms. THANDI, who is the owner of BP in Moore Road, one of the most popular establishments here. I understand that you've just been here for about 3 months.
Yes.
What challenges has the load shedding posed to you as a new entrepreneur in this space?
Some of the challenges that are posed by load shedding is that obviously we do have a second source of power, which is generator, but there will be that lag time when the power cuts off and the generator kicks in. There will be that lag time, and most of the time load shedding happens on my peak hours here. So there will be that 5-7 minutes that the customer is sitting here, and no one wants to wait 7 minutes to fill up at the petrol station. You need to fill up as quick as you can because you'll be moving home.
Now, you're also a parent. On that front, what are some of the challenges that you have to face daily as a result of the load shedding? And particularly at this point, we're now seeing stage 4 and stage 3.
Challenges is that load shedding happens either in the morning when we are rushing, getting ready to go to school and to come to work. So now I need to plan better, make sure that the lunch boxes are ready before time, make sure that we have hot water even before. So those are the disturbances that we have as parents. And also here in the business, one of the major disturbances is that even it affects the wages of the customer, of the employees. Because if I have a shift that ends at 6 and I know that at 4 to 6 there's going to be load shedding and I'm not going to be that busy, I'm going to send some of the employees home, which is, bad for their wages. So it's quite a huge disturbance.
Now, as an entrepreneur, what do you think are some of the solutions that can be brought to try and mitigate the effects of load shedding?
For me, Eskom needs to be proactive instead of being reactive. One of the things that they can do is to educate us as business owners. Currently, I'm working with Prominent Solutions. They are trying to guide me on which times can I switch on and off my machines here to make sure that I manage the demand. So if all of us can have exposure to that information, and collectively we switch off some of the equipment to manage demand, then we may be able to shorten the load shedding or even curb the load shedding altogether. But information is not available out there. So my plea to Eskom: educate us as business owners, educate us as the community on what measures can we do to make sure that we prevent load shedding.
Thank you very much there for your time. We have been speaking to THANDI, who is the owner of BP in Moore Road.
Ronald, I'm ending with you in Cape Town because I think the rest of the country is quite jealous of that city, or of that province rather, that has been able to, for instance, when we're in stage 2, you have stage 1, and right now everybody's on stage 3, you're on stage 2 till 5. What is it that the city of Cape Town or the government of the Western Cape is doing correctly? Excuse me, Ronald.
Yes, a very good morning to you, Masejo, once again. Well, we heard from energy experts earlier on who say that a pumped storage plant is helping to generate electricity capacity, which in turn protects the residents of the city of Cape Town from potential higher levels of load shedding, or even as stages of load shedding. But what we also heard is that experts are saying that how the system works is that electricity generated during off-peak periods pumps water into an upper storage reservoir. The down-flowing water is then used to power the generator, and that in turn creates a system where the people could avoid experiencing higher levels of load shedding, or stages of load shedding. And as we've seen yesterday across the Western Cape, where Cape Town was supposed to be on stage 4, for much of the day it was on stage 3, and many people have lauded this system as a success. People who spoke to the experts are saying that it's high time that the rest of the country also undergoes similar transitions like the steam brass plant that we spoke to one expert and the success it has had. They are saying that the ailing infrastructure of the plants that Eskom is using is leading to the demise. They're saying load shedding has been around since 2007, and they don't foresee that things will improve going forward. This is one expert had to say earlier on when I spoke to him.
So effectively we're using steam brass power, the pump storage plant, as a large battery. So normally we use it for reducing peak demand within the city, but currently during load shedding we're using one of the units to effectively mitigate one of the stages of load shedding. But of course that can only be used during certain parts of the day, because it also requires us to charge the battery at the end of the day. So this is why we're only able to use it effectively during certain parts of the day.
All right, let's leave it there. Mawande Kheswa out for us in Durban, Nqobile Madlala in Johannesburg, and Ronald Masinda in the city of Cape Town.